Hello, everybody. It is Thursday night. And you know what tonight means, right? Tonight is 21 days, 3 weeks until the first night of football.
It can't get here fast enough.
It surely cannot, especially with everything else going on. Although we do have basketball right now, which our particular league is very
Engaged into.
right, because we are basing our draft picks on the outcomes of the first three games of the top 10 or top 5 of each division games, right?
Right. It's a fun game to kind of explain out because for those of you who are looking to spice up how you do things in your league, it's the same thing over and over, snake draft, 10 teams, blah, blah, blah. This is a really fun way to get engaged into basketball a little bit right now and get your draft order. So we randomized, we're a 10-team league, and we randomized, handed out 10 teams, 10 of the playoff teams in the NBA playoffs right now. So my team, for example, is Oklahoma. We're going to add up the total of the first three games of the series, and whatever their total points is, that's my number. Whichever team gets the highest total points for those first three games, they get to select their draft order. Real neat way to add a little fun and flexibility to how you determine draft order versus the same old humdrum randomizer.
Just a little bit different, something to do. So I have a question for you here, Keith. We are just a few weeks away. The team started in pads this past week, and as baseball is having issues with COVID, football, we're not hearing much about it. Is it that we're not hearing about it? Is it that we are are they being that safe? Are the players following protocol? I mean, what do you think? I mean, I'm happy about it.
I'm actually mystified because we're now it's the fourth full day of contact, and you can say, well, with baseball, it happened a little later. It didn't. For the Marlins and the Phillies,
the first few days.
It happened the first few days. And if you want to talk about which sport undoubtedly has more contact, we're not even at the 53-man roster. So how many guys are out there right now? Is it like 80 or something? All of them bumping and grinding, cracking skulls, rolling around on the ground with each other, up in each other's faces, exchanging saliva and sweat.
Okay. You're making it sound very appealing. Okay, slow down.
Listen, for those of you who play football, you know what I'm talking about. But by the way, that was football that we were just talking about. Right. So, yeah, I'm blown away. I honestly thought by this point we'd have a dozen or so. So let's cross our fingers that the NFL players have been taking responsibility. They've been doing it the right way. I got to tell you though, you tell me, Cyclops, I think it is way too early to determine what it's really going to look like. I think it could possibly be a very different story in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Forget about what we know right now. What do you think? What do you think it's going to be like in 3 to 4 weeks?
I don't know. I mean, they've kept it this way, for now. Now they're starting in pads. They're doing their testing. Maybe they're just being more strict than maybe they have better guidelines in for baseball than baseball had. We'll see. There's just no way to know. Kids are going back to school, colleges, and college football teams are getting it. Of course, these are professionals. This is their livelihood. So what, if I was out there making that kind of money and being on an NFL team, I would want to be more. I'd want to be safer. So we'll see. There's a long way to go. It's 3 weeks. It feels like an eternity, but we can only hope, right?
Mm-hmm. One recommendation I'll make is set your draft date as late as possible, if possible.
It's the same thing. You could talk about that with preseason. Some people like doing it early. Some people have dynasty leagues. Some people like to do it before preseason. So there's trades. It could be the same thing. It doesn't necessarily matter when you do your draft. Just make sure you adjust for the season not moving on or only being a few weeks. Make all those adjustments and rules, but do your draft whenever you want.
How could you say that, though? People are dropping out. Someone might get COVID and say, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here. That could be one of your top 2 picks. The later you wait, but you're right. When they drop out, they drop out, though.
There could be injuries. There's all kinds of things. There's injuries happening today. There's people going on with hamstring injuries. Tyreek Hill had a little bit of an issue. AJ Green. So those are going to happen. It's just, it's part of the game. Injuries happen. COVID happens. All these things happen. So I know our particular league, we're in several leagues each, but our main league, we definitely draft as late as possible, sometimes even after the first game in certain instances, but there's reasons. I would always like to draft early, but it's just not how this league does it, so I go along with it, and it's fine, and it works out, and we have a good time. Anyway, so some of the things we're going to talk about tonight are last year's consensus ADP top 20, and they may not be in exact order or whatnot, but it's last year's consensus top 20 and how they ended up ranking at the end of the year, and then looking at this year's top 20 and figuring out in there, do you move other people in? Do you move some of these people out? Every year it's like these big name players sometimes are in there just because of their history or for, different reasons. So we're going to take a look at that. We'll kind of run through 2019 pretty quick, and then we'll get into, this year. But to go back and do a little bit of history can show how you can adapt your draft to how you want it, not always having to take necessarily the big name at number 9 or 10, and maybe go who you think is going to be better. So we're going to look into that a little bit. It's going to be called Stay In, Fall Out, or Move Down. All right. So we're going to jump right into it. And we do have a trivia question tonight. Now, tonight's trivia question is a fantasy football trivia question that I pulled out. So we'll get to that in a little bit after we do some of these, and we're gonna jump right in. All right. So last year, the number 20, we'll kind of move through these pretty quick. The number 20 ranked player, and these are going on ADPs, and they are definitely not perfect, but I looked at several different ADP lists and kind of pulled these top 20 out. So it was Adam Thielen. All right. He came off a great year, and it was looking like, he and Kirk Cousins have a chemistry going on. So where does he end up? He ends up as the number 56 wide receiver, right? Now, why? He played 10 games.
Hurt, of course.
He was hurt. Right. That's right. He ended up being the number he ended up being the number 56 wide receiver, the number 64 player overall in fantasy, at about 114 points. But he played 10 games. Now, how do you look at him this year? We'll kind of go through these.
Right. And the real question is here, are we getting 2018 Adam Thielen, who was just unbelievable and for much of the year was the wide receiver too? Or are we getting, the hurt rendition of him, which again it's really hard to negotiate what those stats would be. And the real question is, how does Stephon Diggs' absence, his departure affect him? Is Adam Thielen still a top 20? I gotta tell you, this is a tough one. I'm not 100% sold on it.
This is a top 20 overall. Not a top 20 receiver.
Not top 20 receiver, top 20 overall. Remember, he was drafted. And again, just to be totally clear, what we're doing here, we're going to go through these 20 players. This is not how they ranked. This was their ADP draft position. This was 2019, the consensus, who were the top 20 draft picks, not where they ended up. So is Adam Thielen a top 20 this year? I'm going to say no. I think he's going to be a great receiver, especially with Diggs gone. But I think there's a lot of people that are nudging him out of the top 20 this year. And I think he'll be just on the outside looking in.
I think he's going to be closer to 30 to 40 player. I think there's other players that will, several other players that will jump up. I think that people are looking at Minnesota as they want to be a run first team. So there might be less balls thrown out to the wide receivers. You have a rookie wide receiver coming in with Jefferson. So anyway, we're both on a So we're both on a consensus that he's out of the top 20.
He'll fall out of the top 20. Exactly.
Okay. Devontae Adams. All right.
For me, there's no question he'll still be a top 20.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Now, he ended up being the 29 wide receiver last year. He played 12 games, so he was hurt for a few games. And the number 71 overall fantasy point getter. And again, this could fluctuate a little bit. Keep that in mind. I understand that. But, I mean, I have him at 19. That's probably about the same range that you're going to get an Adams this year.
I'm going to absolutely agree with you. I mean, he's what is he? He's the fourth, depending upon how you score and how you rank it, he's the fourth or fifth receiver off the board, which you're going to see at the end of the second round. So I think, top 20 and right around probably where he was last year.
Yeah, so that's yeah. All right, so number 18, ADP, Travis Kelce. Now, he was the number 1 tight end. He was the number 33 overall point getter. He did play 16 games, but the value to have a tight end to be up there, now he was number 18. A lot of people, I see Kelce going in a lot of leagues in the top 10 to 12, 14 this year.
Absolutely. If he was a wide receiver, his numbers and statistics would have had him as a wide receiver.
Right, exactly.
So there's no question he's a top 20. And I actually think he is going to move up based on where he was. I agree with you there.
Right. So then we are going to move. We're moving through these pretty quick. We're going to move to the number 17. Now, this one's a big one. Delvin Cook ends up being the number 6 running back overall. He played 14 games, and he was the number 14 overall point getter. Okay, but the number 6 running back. But he was probably the 14th running back, in this list here. Right. So the question is, he's going through some contract things right now. Is he going to, he's in camp, but a lot of people are calling for him to hold out and not play because of his contract. How do you feel about him?
So there's 2 discussions on him. Let's have the discussion that he's signed and where I value him. And then if he's not signed, where you value him, because those are 2 very, very different numbers. So let's just say the contract, they come to terms, they get the extension done.
Oh, we just froze up. So the whole thing just froze up. Oh, maybe we're still live. Maybe just Keith froze up. What's that? You're still live. Yeah, I know. Well, it froze up. I didn't realize that we're having some technical issues with 2020 right now. So he is frozen. Maybe he'll come back in a few minutes. I didn't realize that. Anyway, so we're talking about Delvin Cook, and I think we'll be in agreement that he's going to be a top 5 pick this year, and he is going to be, as long as he plays and he stays healthy, with 2 big concerns, he should be great. So then we move to the number 16 pick over last year was Joe Mixon. Now, Mixon ended up being the 13 running back, which is probably right in the range where he was drafted, but the number 55 overall player. He did play 16 games. He's getting a rookie running back this year. He is the man in Cincinnati. He should be getting a ton of work. This year, he's up in he's around the same. He's around like 15, 14 player this year to be drafted. So, hey, there he's back. He froze up there for a minute.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So we're up to Joe Mixon. He was the number 13 running back last year. And he was the number 55 overall point getter last year. Mm-hmm. Now, last year he was 16. This year I have him around 15. So he's really right in the same range. And I was saying that he's got a rookie quarterback. He's got Boyd. He's got potential AJ Green there. So there's good players around him. he's going to get a ton of work. But he did play 16 games last year, and he was number 13. So I wouldn't go too high on him. I know some people are higher on him, but I think number 15 is right in his range.
I think that as well. I probably have him a couple ticks higher, maybe around 13 or 14. The offensive line's a little bit better. I think Burrow is actually an upgrade to Dalton, and I think he is going to dump the ball off to Mixon a lot. I hate that he's got to face Baltimore and Pittsburgh's two pretty stout run defenses.
Right.
But he's right around there. Yep.
Okay. All right. So the number last year, number 15 was Mahomes. All right. So the 15th range pick last year, ADP was Mahomes. Mm-hmm. What number quarterback do you think Mahomes ended up being last year? Now remember, he was hurt, so he played 13 games, not 16. And he ended up being the number 8 overall quarterback last year. Yeah, right. Which isn't bad, considering he missed 3 games. And number 15 overall point getter. Quarterbacks obviously generally get higher points. This year, a lot of people
could be 900 yards with Mahomes. That could be 900, 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Absolutely, yeah. So he would have jumped back up. He got hurt. A lot of people have Jackson and Mahomes top 2 quarterbacks this year, but I think a lot of people have Jackson a little bit higher this year. But if it's me, quite honestly, I'm taking Mahomes first. I think he's steady. He's proven. He's got incredible weapons around him that are all hurt right now, but they're there. But Andy Reid
finally has that dynamic back. I mean, Kareem Hunt was a good back. There's no question. Yeah. But I don't think he's a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I really don't.
Yeah, and Andy Reid has a history of taking guys and just making magic. So yeah, all right. So number 14. Probably one of the biggest busts last year, at least in the top 2, was Smith-Schuster. Number 66 wide receiver overall. He played 12 games. He was hurt for a couple weeks. But I'm going to say it, that sucked. I ended up trading for him early in the season. I thought, he was having some issues, whatever. I thought it would get better. And it just every week was just one frustration after another.
Right. But the question here, this was not a player,
of course,
that fell off, had a bad, his skills were not up to par. It was by far ranked the worst quarterback play in the NFL last year without Big Ben. That they were ranked that one.
I get.
So the question is he still going to be in the top 20? And go ahead.
No, I just don't think so. No, I don't. I think there's other receivers people will take and then move. They're going to look to Smith-Schuster as like almost a wide receiver 2, potentially.
And I'm going to make a bold prediction that I think Juju Smith-Schuster will be the wide receiver 6. I know they love Deontay Johnson there, and I actually have him as a sleeper.
You think he's going to be the number 6 overall wide receiver this year?
Absolutely.
At the end of the year.
I think yes. So here's the question: what was he in 2018? I think he was right around wide receiver 6.
Yeah, he was way up there, of course.
Right. So here's the question: what, for any reason, would lead you to believe he wouldn't be back to his 2018 form? Same offensive coordinator, same quarterback. He's not fighting for balls with Antonio Brown. His biggest competition is Deontay Johnson. Right. He's the true wide receiver 1. James Conner is back. So I don't see any reason why, with a baller like Big Ben, as long as that guy stays healthy, this guy to me is going to be a steal this year. He'll be a wide receiver 6 or 7. I don't see any reason why he won't revert to Juju of 2018.
Well, we will see. And I wrote down number 6 overall wide receiver at the end of the year. I don't see it. I see him probably, if Big Ben stays healthy and he can get some of his form back in, maybe 15 to 20.
Wow.
I want
to hear the 9 receivers you have ahead of him. You don't have
Right
to do
now.
it now, but we're going to talk about this. I want to hear the 9 receivers you have ahead of Juju. I'm going to be interested to hear that.
Okay. Hopefully Big Ben can stay healthy. We'll see if he can bounce back. I think he's got more competition there now. We will see.
All right.
Next, consensus last year for 2019 draft was Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill also 12 games, was injured, and ended up being the number 28 wide receiver. So take 4 games off of there, probably brings him up into the 18 range wide receiver, right? Number 88 overall points getter. So where does that, but he's again, ranked pretty high this year, right around the 18 to 22 mark for drafts this year. Why?
I just think there's too many mouths to feed there. I like Tyreek Hill. He's a great NFL receiver. He's a good fantasy receiver. But yeah. I think he's going to be on the outside looking in the top 20. You got Mecole Hardman coming into his second year. Kelsey is the first or second passing options. You still have Sammy Watkins there. And then you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, agreed. I just think there's so many mouths to feed. Mahomes is going to get his 4,500 plus yards and close to 40-something touchdowns. I get that. I think Tyreek Hill is going to end up just outside the other ADP by the end.
So do you look at Hill? Oh, I think you froze up again. Oh yeah, there he goes. Let's take him out. That's a really bad picture. We will see if he gets back live again. Obviously, he's having some internet issues, but we're talking about Hill. We'll see how he ends up. I kind of, want someone else to take him and then get somebody else at this point. Not that he doesn't make spectacular plays and, he'll go 2 for 100 yards and a touchdown, which is good for fantasy football, but the consistency of 5 to 10 catches a game, it's not there enough. All right. So then we go to number 12. We go to, he's still frozen up. We go to Michael Thomas. Now, some people took him a little bit higher last year. Michael Thomas, we all know, ended up being the number 1 wide receiver last year and number 3 overall point getter. This guy, he's moves up into the top 5 to 7 picks in most drafts this year. He's a beast. He still has Drew Brees. He re-signed. They signed Emmanuel Sanders, which might take a few away from him, but will also help. It will also help Michael Thomas, and he's the number 1 receiver off every board this year, and we know that. Talking about Michael Thomas, who was around number 12 ADP last year. Are you there? Can you
hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
There you are.
All right. You can buy some internet or something.
Yep, I just went through Michael Thomas.
Okay.
Clear number 1 receiver this year, probably people's number 4 to 8 pick in most drafts, for yards, for touchdowns, for PPR, for half PPR, for all of it.
His consensus was 12 last year, wasn't it?
12, that's correct. Yep.
Oh yeah, there's no question. He's 5, 6, 7 off the board, and 7th I think it's going to be even late. Consensus 5, 6, absolutely.
All right,
just
so
a beast.
We have him up. All right, that's almost don't even need to talk about him. All right.
No, definitely.
Next one, number 11, Aaron Jones. Excuse me, my bad. Julio Jones. Julio Jones ends up being the number 20 overall point getter. He played 15 games. I think they just held him out when they were out of it one week. I don't think he was hurt. I don't recall. But the number 5 overall wide receiver.
Right.
And, Jones always is up there as far as receivers. People, I think just about everyone has him again this year in people's top 20. And he deserves it. He gets a ton of yards. Jones, always his biggest issue is what?
Touchdowns. That changed last year.
A little bit last year, yeah.
Yeah. He started catching up. So the question is, I don't think anyone's going to debate he's going to be in the top 20. But does his number 11 ADP stick? And I'm saying, personally, absolutely not. And for the only reason, because you've got 3 guys I can think of right now that are going to push him out. Edwards-Helaire, Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry were not in the top 10 last year, and they're going to go ahead of him. Absolutely. And you're just going to see his draft position slip a little bit. But by far, I mean, for me, he's the overall wide receiver 2 off the board. Just he's solid money there.
Yep. All right. So then we're going to get into the top 10 here. All right. Number 10, Hopkins. All right. This is obviously an interesting one this year with his move. He ended up being the number 9 wide receiver last year. Played 15 games. 23 overall point getter. 9 wide receiver. You just don't hear that name and expect that.
In Houston with Deshaun throwing the ball.
Yeah, and he just had some bad games. Right. And COVID. And of course now he moves to Arizona. He's got Kyler Murray. He's got Fitzgerald. They have Drake. They have there's you just get the feeling like they're going to be a run and gun offense this year. I think they're going to have a fast pace. Murray can get out of the pocket. We know Hopkins, once a quarterback buys some time, he gets open. We've seen that with Watson. Where do you put him this year? Do you keep him?
I think he's teetering on the edge of top 20. I have at least 6 or 7 receivers ahead of him. Granted, if he's in Houston, it's a different story. Right. On a new team and a new system. You've got him and Christian Kirk there. Fitzgerald's now the third option. I don't know if they have a tight end. They might not have a tight end. I really don't think they do.
That's possible.
Right. Murray's going to light it up. I really believe that. I think Hopkins will be right in the top 20, but I have him as like a wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8. He definitely moved down, but he'll maybe the top 20.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of have him in like the 15 to 25 range, and I think it could go anywhere in there. I think some people are going to be higher on him. Some people are going to be a little lower on him. But he's still a tremendous talent, and I think he will have a good year. I think he will have. So we're getting a comment by an old league member that I'm smoking. I don't know what I'm smoking, or maybe it's Keith that's smoking, and I don't know. Is he talking about? If you're listening, are you talking about Hopkins having a good year? Hopkins is top 14 easy overall. Okay. All right. Well, I said 15 to 25. I wasn't that far off. It just kind of depends on your league and how you feel about them. If you're talking about 15 and you want to go up to 14 to get them, if you're in that spot, you can take your guy. That's just the truth of it. Anyway, I'm going to throw out the trivia question here. All right. So here it is. The question is, this is a fantasy football question. Since 2000, this running back was the only number 1 overall pick that was once a backup running back on another NFL team. Now, number 1 overall pick, meaning a fantasy overall pick, and his ADP, based on the ADP since 2000. So he was a backup on another team, and then ended up, I'll say a couple years later, ended up being a fantasy football number 1 pick. So we'll leave that out there for a few minutes. We'll see if we get some comments on that. And so it says here, we'll put that up here. Dave was talking about 2020's comment. So he did not like that, obviously.
How about DeAndre? He's a Hopkins fan. He always has been.
Okay, so we go Priest Holmes. So we did have a guest there. I'm not sure if he looked it up or not. We never know if people look things up. And yes, that's the quickest we've had a trivia question answered. And yes, Priest Holmes. I'm going to put it up here. Let's see. Why did that whole thing not show up? I don't know why. But he was a top pick in 2004 drafts after he had 27 touchdowns in 2003. Now, before that, let's see. Well, the whole thing I put in here wasn't there. Before that, he was on Baltimore, and he was an undrafted free agent. And he who took over for him? That's another trivia
I
question.
was just going to say, who did he back up and who took over? I was just going to ask that.
Who took over, and then he went to Kansas City, and then a couple years later, he ended up coming in and ended up doing this. So good job, Dave. Appreciate that. Appreciate, yes. Dave is saying we are his fantasy bitches. So yes, he knew the trivia question. All right, good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move along here. This one, number 9 overall last year. There was a lot of talk about this guy last year, and Le'Veon Bell.
I might throw up in my mouth again.
He was awful. He ended up being the number 16 running back overall, but the number 67 player. He played 16 games, and he played on the Jets, and anybody who drafted him was just disappointed all year. What did he have? He had probably 14 very average or below average games. What did he average? Like 2 yards a carry, and a couple of games where he scored a few touchdowns, so he got you some points. You know, with the amount of touches he had, he got 215 points, but I consider that a bust.
The question is Le'Veon Bell ever going to look like the same running back as he did in black and gold over in that game green? No. I'm not talking about the colors. I'm just talking about how he fits into the scheme behind what I don't think is a terribly good offensive line. And the quarterback play has not been fantastic. You know, he's just not the same player in New York. Not that his skill set isn't there.
He's older.
As he is. He definitely is older, but you know something? He had a lot more tread on his tires because of his holdouts in some of the seasons that he didn't play. So you could add a couple years to his football age because of that. I love him as a player. I don't think he fits good. I don't think any running back fits good into that Jet system right now, to be honest with you. They've not a stud running back for some time. There's no way this guy's in the top 20 for me.
So if you take him and put him back on Pittsburgh, where do you draft him?
Back to Pittsburgh?
Back to Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Back to Pittsburgh, he might be, I would have him as maybe running back 6, running back 7.
Wow.
Definitely. Okay. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They know how to use him there, and they have a good offensive line there.
So as Dave said, and I was thinking, the Steelers' scheme and their offensive line made him, right? He just put this in. Now, he's a Steelers fan. We know that, so sorry. But he has that hesitation running. And when lines can kind of create just little holes, the hesitation and then breaking into the hole, that just wasn't happening in New York. That's why he couldn't go anywhere.
Exactly.
And it just didn't fit, didn't work. So I don't see much of that changing this year. Now, you never know. Maybe it'll be a surprise. But I think for a huge consensus, I don't think I'll see him going anywhere in any leagues in the top 20 this year.
No, definitely
if you do, I want to join that league.
Exactly.
All right. So number 8, we're going to get off Bell. This is a nice one.
I love Chubb.
We know. So Chubb ended up being the number 8. He was drafted 8th. He ended up being the 8th running back overall. Number 30 overall. It's funny. He played 16 games. He ended up being the number 30 overall point getter. Number 8 running back. A lot of running backs go early, right? Last year, the top 8 players were essentially running backs. So he kind of did what he was drafted to do.
But there's a reason why Nick Chubb went 8. He went 8 because he was their bell cow, 3 down back for the first guaranteed, I think it was 10 games of the season.
Before Hunt got there, that's right.
That's exactly right. So Hunt, they knew he was suspended for the first 10 games. That was a high-flying offense. 100%. Baker Mayfield in 2018 looked great. So he had a very high ADP because he was getting the rock all of himself for those first 10 games. And you know something? He proved he deserved it, and he performed like it. So there's no question Chubb is definitely moving down. I think we know that, obviously, in that committee backfield. The question is, does he stay in the top 20? And that is a good question. Because my ADP in him, I have him right around there.
So yeah, I mean, this year's ADP, and again, they're all, they can all range. Every site, every person, everyone can range. He's around like the 11 to 13 ADP this year.
Yeah.
Now he's going through concussion protocol right now. So a running back who gets tons of hits, that's never good, right? When a running back is in another hit, they have Kareem Hunt there who can spell him a lot. So maybe all of a sudden they're not going to use him as much. And that can be worrisome when you're talking about taking your first or second running back. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. He's kind of a question mark. I have him moving down right now a bit. I think Hunt will get more touches this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I have him moving down considerably. Yeah.
Here's another interesting one from last year. Number 7 overall pick, for last year, Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley.
Right. He ended up being, what's that?
I mean, there's no question he's moving down, obviously.
Yeah. But you got to remember he's moving to a new team.
Right.
The running back catches a lot out of the backfield. They're saying he's going to be the guy. Now he's also been seen limping around as of last week. So people are going to worry about that with him. He ended up being the number 14 running back overall last year, number 62 point getter. So for taking him number 7, I think people were disappointed. He did kind of come on and he was getting a lot of touchdowns later in the year. So that helped, that kind of padded his numbers because it seemed like he wasn't doing anything between 20 and 20. Everything was in there. He wasn't getting a ton of catches. So we'll see what Atlanta does with him. We'll see if he's healthy.
Mm-hmm. Healthy or not, Atlanta's offense, that offense is the number 1 passing attempt offense in the NFL. They had a total of 2 rushing touchdowns last year. So regardless of that arthritic knee, which I do not think he is totally back, it's a known fact he's not the Todd Gurley from 2017 and 18. I don't see he sniffs the top 20 this year. I'm not running backs, but I see him definitely outside his finishing position, scoring out of the top 20.
Okay, so we have 2 more here to get to 5, and then we have the top 4: McCaffrey, Kamara, Elliott, and Barkley. We don't even need to talk about, right? We know those guys are basically the first 4 running backs taken in every league. We don't even need to get into them. Maybe Cook is thrown in there this year, but we don't need to talk about them here. So we're going to get into the last 2. Both what I would consider was huge busts, drafting him in the spots. Connor was number 6 overall ADP last year. He played 10 games. He ended up being 127 overall point getter and the number 35 running back. So even in those 10 games, he did not have a great year. We know the quarterback situation last year. We know everything that happened there, which plays into a running back, of course. So my question to you is, do we kind of cross that out from last year and regroup this year, just like you're doing with Juju? What do you think?
I am. It's so funny when you think about the 3-headed monster in Pittsburgh. It's Juju, Connor, and Big Ben. And Big Dave's going to love this. I'm expecting bounce back years for all 3. I think James Conner has an opportunity. I don't see any reason why he doesn't return to his 2018 form. It's a good offensive line. They have a fantastic defense. It's going to keep them in games. You can't cheat on them with Deontay, Juju, and now a great tight end in Ebron. To me, that is a well-balanced offense. I see James Conner coming in, definitely a top 10 running back, in my opinion. He's going to crack the top 20. I'm going to make a prediction. He'll be like a running back 7 or 8.
Over at the end of the year.
Okay. At the end of the year. Draft pick, definitely top 20. Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one here, very, very interesting this year, David Johnson, right? He ended up being the number 37 running back overall last year. He played 13 games, 134 overall last year as far as point getter. We know what happened in Arizona. He wasn't running well. Drake comes in, runs all over the place, catches all over the place. Is it just he wasn't happy? Was he just not good anymore? We don't know, but they trade him as part of that big trade. He goes to Houston and becomes potential. Now they got, of course, Johnson & Johnson, right? Duke Johnson comes in, catches the ball. We know David Johnson can catch the ball as well. He gets a ton of catches out of the backfield. Last year bust. This year what? Tell me.
I got to tell you, this to me is one of the hardest ones to predict, and it's because one of the first things that you just said. Why was it that Johnson, who is an explosive player, couldn't do a fraction of what not only Kenyon Drake did, but if you remember, Chase Edmonds came in and looked like Barry Sanders before he. They both looked better than him, if you remember.
Right. Yeah.
And Edmonds got hurt, but both of them looked explosive in that offense. And the one thing I didn't see about David Johnson was explosiveness. He was very pedestrian last year. So I don't know what's going on with him. You even noted, I think one of his injuries was his hand. I need to understand more about his injury. He doesn't look like the David Johnson that busted onto the scene in the middle of 2017, lit it up in 2018. I'm not sold on him. So
he just looked a lot more tentative when he was running.
Yes,
and
you know what? It could be. Oh my God, who was it? The Cleveland-bound running back. He was a number 1 pick, and then went to Indianapolis. He lost it. He became so tentative. He was the Heisman Trophy winner. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Drafted by the Browns. Went to Indy, and he was a stud running back for 1 year, and he lost. He lost his stride or something. Yeah, we'll think about it in a second. So
I mean, it happens, but so we got David Johnson. He's nobody's top 20 this year.
No,
unless somebody's like, "Wow, I got to have David Johnson. He's going to have an amazing year. I'm going to reach and take him." But really, he's 4th, 5th, 6th round. Your definitely second, maybe even 3rd running back on your roster. Okay.
T-Rich. Thank you, Burger. Trent Richardson.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. From Alabama.
Yeah, from Alabama. Heisman Trophy winner. Came in first year and a half, looked great. And then he basically was like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the Dolphins. You touch him, he went down. Couldn't break a tackle, couldn't make a cut. And Johnson just doesn't look like the same guy. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we talked about a lightning round tonight. We weren't going to do, but what we'll do, because we're running into around 45 minutes, and what we're going to do real quick is a quick lightning round for the 2020 top 20. 2020 top 20. We'll start it, down around 20, and you say up, down, or just right.
20 on the 2020 projections. Got it.
Correct. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So we're saying you're going to say someone in the top 20 or out of the top 20?
I'm going to give you their ADP, how I have it for this year, and you're going to say up, down, or right. Okay. So all right. So let's do it. I'm going to mark these down as you're going through. We'll see how it ends up. All right. So Kelsey. So you got to remember 20.
Oh, he's at 20. Kelsey at 20 is spot on.
Spot on. Okay.
I love that.
Tyreek Hill at 19.
Too high.
So down.
Down.
All right. Aaron Jones, 18.
Spot on.
On. Okay. Hopkins at 17.
Down.
Devontae Adams, 16. This is all right. Speedy Gonzalez. This is not like
I'm thinking here. Some of these they're really right there. They're like a tick or two off for me if I'm thinking of my top 20.
All right, Joe Mixon at 15.
Spot
on. Eckler at 14. He's an interesting one.
He is. He really is. But I love him. I'm going to say up.
Up. Okay. This is okay. Julio Jones, 13.
At 13?
Yep.
Up.
Josh Jacobs, 12.
Spot on.
Okay, I go up on him. The Chubb at 11.
Down. I love Chubb, but not at 11.
Yeah. Yeah, normally like 10:30, 10:45.
Depends what he calls me.
Kenyon Drake at 10.
Down.
Down. Okay.
I like him, but not a 10.
Hilaire at 9.
No, up.
Up. Yeah, a lot of people are bringing him up a little bit. All
Yeah.
right, Sanders at 8. Philly.
Oh, at 8 down.
Down, yep. Derrick Henry at 7.
Spot
All right. Michael Thomas at 6. I mean,
Right
the rest of these are going to be, Kamara,
Yeah,
Cook,
Barkley,
Elliott, Barkley, McCaffrey,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
There
right.
are, a few of them are interchangeable depending on who you like, what you like.
Right.
There's a lot of interesting things that you're hearing out of camp right now. Jones in New York, he bulked up, he's looking good. So there's a lot of different things you're hearing. I got to tell you, had a great time on tonight's show. We are going to wrap it up. We are looking again, as we'll say, 3 weeks from football right now. 3 weeks from right now, there is the potential for football. What are your odds? We do this every show. What are your odds? What are the odds right now?
I'm still at 50-50.
You're still at 50-50. I've been around like 65. I'm moving up. Every show or every week, I move up about 5%. I'm moving up to 70%.
I love your optimism.
I was at 65 last. Hey, you gotta have something. So thank you. Good show. See you Monday night. We will be talking. We will put a scenario together to talk about things for Monday night. What were we going to talk about Monday night?
I think what we were talking about our top 10 sleepers, our top 10 busts, and our breakout players for 2020.
Excellent. Have anything else? By the way, I don't even think we mentioned it, but Seth, the commish, not with us tonight. He had some family things going on. Personally, I'm going to say it because he's not here. I'm sure he'll listen, or he's listening, but really, come on. You've had it. I'm sure I'll have it. We'll all get, crap from each other, but that's the way it is. It's part of the smack talk. We have a good time.
And happy birthday to Leah.
Thank you. Oh, happy birthday to Leia. Yep. Enjoy.
Yeah.
And we will see you Monday night.
Yep. Get Buzz on the buzz. We'll see you Monday night.
Take care.